And the World Cup, of course, is just 24 days away, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the show the manager of Belgium. Let's say hello and good afternoon and welcome to Drive to Roberto Martinez. Hello, Roberto. How are you?
Very well. Good afternoon, Andy. Good afternoon, Darren.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for coming on. I just said there the World Cup's 24 days away. Your first game is 27 days away. We were talking yesterday, myself and Benty, about does it feel like the World Cup is as close as it is? Because usually it's in the summer and it's coming up over Christmas. How does it feel to you?
Well, it's funny you're saying that. For me, I've been preparing for the World Cup well before the summer break. And I've seen a difference. Obviously, we were in the March camp and already you're counting the days to prepare for the World Cup. And it was only 20 days in March. So obviously, as coaches and technical staff, you got that very much in your head. But I couldn't see players thinking that way. I could see that the players, everything came after the summer. I think it's been a real shift that the moment that they started the new season, the World Cup would be in this campaign. And now it feels that it's going to be there in a very unusual time. But if we're all honest, obviously if club football and international football, they never go hand by hand. When you play the tournament at the end of the season, as a coach, you're very, very concerned about the mental fatigue and the physical fatigue of the players. This is, of course, it's not a convenient time for the domestic leagues, but for international football, we're going to get every player in optimal condition from a physical and mental point of view. So I feel we're going to get the best out of individuals, even though maybe as teams, it will take a few games in the World Cup to reach the best because you're not going to have time to prepare the teams.
Roberto, you said it there about the World Cup being in a different time of the year. Have you found your preparation then for this World Cup having to change much? Or do you kind of, as you said there, because the players have been playing in their various leagues, they're going to be up to speed. Has it going to have to change at all, the preparation?
Yes, we felt that we needed to go to the Middle East as quick as we could. And that was immediately, we're going to meet up on the 14th of November. And then on the 15th, we're traveling to Kuwait, and then we're going to play a friendly there before we go to Qatar. But as you mentioned, we're going to meet on the 14th, which is still match day +1. Some of the players will play a game with their clubs on the 13th. So it's very much almost like a normal camp rather than a big tournament preparation. So everything is more about trying to give continuity. I think in many aspects, we work on the preparation already in the previous camps. So this could be a quite different World Cup in terms of teams having surprising results. The first 3 games in the group phase, it would feel like the teams are coming together and they're developing. And obviously you're risking that maybe you're not getting the points while you're doing that. And that would be bringing me a lot of surprises because, as you know, in a World Cup, there is no margin of error.
Roberto, when I look at some of the players in your squad, they're some of the best on the planet. Obviously, you've got Hazard, Lukaku, Courtois, and everyone's very excited about seeing Kevin De Bruyne at a major tournament. You've got what some people call the golden generation of footballers for the Belgium squad. You go into this World Cup as one of the favourites. Your time at Wigan, you go into an FA Cup final against Man City as the underdog. As a manager personally, what do you prefer?
Well, you always prefer to have the best players. That's always the most enjoyable part as a coach. But I think we had it in 2018. This generation that you're talking about, they were under massive pressure, let's say, from Belgium, because these players, they really are the golden generation of Belgian football. But at that time, it was an added pressure. I think it was an unfair pressure because the generation was young and it wasn't ready to be the golden generation. Now it's different. We're talking about 4 years after they achieved the bronze medal, which is the best qualification for a Belgium team. They've been number 1 in the world for 4 years. They really are the golden generation now of Belgian football. And now is more an opportunity for these players to set the new standards for the next generations and allow everyone and the younger age groups to reach the levels that they are needed. And now is more of a friendly term. Now is almost an exciting term. But I think these players, they've had their own path. You're talking about those names. They all share that they have to leave Belgium at a very young age, and then they develop in the best leagues around the world. But then they always carry that almost responsibility of representing Belgium. And when they come, they got a real human quality, and that shines the way that they become a team together. And that probably is the most enjoyable part of my job, to see how outstanding individuals come together to become the best possible team.
Roberto, there you said about the golden generation, and there are some fantastic players there. In your mind, as you sit right now, have you got an idea exactly who you're taking to the World Cup? And are there still a couple spots available for players maybe to break into the squad?
Well, the way we work, Darren, we got a list of 55 players now, and there are 3 lists within that list. So they got a list of players that we know exactly what they bring to the national team. They've been very important for a long, long time. I could tell you that there are 8 players that they are very close to the 100 caps, which is quite significant in a national team to have that amount of years representing the national team. And then you got a list of another group of players that they are more competing for places depending on moments of form, that they already played in the national team, but they will depend on how they get the last few weeks in their clubs. And then there is a new list that we always very much working as a club, young talent that we feel that they've got an attribute that they could help in the squad, and they never played for the national team. So those are the 3 lists that we have, and probably until the 9th of November, we're going to make the final decisions to make sure that we got a very well-balanced squad, and probably taking the new regulations in mind. Remember, it's going to be the first World Cup with 5 substitutions. It's going to be the first World Cup with 26 players, minimum 3 keepers, but you could have actually more than 3 keepers. And that's a choice. Every federation can choose between 23 to 26 to have the players they need. In our case, is more taking 26 players and using every spot in the best possible way, depending on where these players fit in those 3 lists that I mentioned.
You've got 27 games till your first match in the World Cup. I'm pretty sure it's Canada. I hope I'm right there. If that game was tomorrow, do you know your starting 11 for that right now?
No. The truth is that obviously we know exactly what Canada, what type of opposition they are. We take the experience that we had in 2018, and remember that England played Panama as well. When you play a team that they got the joy of being in the tournament, they got no margin of error. They can enjoy their football. They become very dangerous. You have to match that. So I don't think the starting lineup is going to be something that we're going to get while we're working together, and we're going to use those 7 days and the friendly in the middle. The variations, they are not big. You're talking about a team that they've been working together for a long, long time. But we're very much aware of who we play. In Canada, Morocco, and Croatia for us is a clear opposition that we need to respect immensely in the tournament.
Okay, can you just confirm one way or the other? Is Kevin De Bruyne, if he's fit, does he start?
Probably that's the easiest question that we're going to have.
I wanted to get a headline from you, that's all, Roberto.
Yes. Yeah, no, probably. I think we got certain players now that they are at the peak of their careers. And for me, Kevin De Bruyne is the best playmaker in world football. Obviously, he finished in Ballon d'Or, and this is the biggest position or the highest position ever of a Belgian player. But I think the role that he has at Manchester City and the way that he's been developing, it makes him one of the stars of the tournament, not just a star of Belgium.
Kind of another star for Belgian football is your all-time record goal scorer, Romelu Lukaku. Now, obviously, last season must have been incredibly difficult for you because his form at Chelsea didn't get much game time, didn't score many goals. But for Belgium, I think he scored 11 goals in 12 games. I mean, how did you manage that whole situation? And did you kind of notice a difference in him when he came away with the national team?
Yes, yeah, I think it's a very good point. You know it as a striker. You rely a lot about how you are used. It's not the same using your qualities when you are a possession team, or you're playing on the counter-attack, or you want. Rom is a player that he can play in many different profiles. He's a number 9 that he can play back to play. He can run in behind, and probably is a victim sometimes of his versatility and the way he's used at club level. But he's a very settled player in the national team. He's got a huge role, a huge responsibility. And for us, we saw a big difference when he went to Serie A, when he went to Inter Milan the first time round. I think he developed a degree of maturity that I didn't see with him. And I worked with him when he was a young player at Everton at the age of 19. He's always been a sensational goal scorer, and then you can pick out whatever you want. You can try to look at the things that he hasn't got. But if you got an exceptional goal scorer with a real degree of maturity, is always a very important player to have, especially in our national team. So it was great for him yesterday to come on. It's the first soft tissue injury that he's had, so it was a 2-month period that it was difficult. But for him to come on, score his goal, first game since August, is a really good return, and is a very important player for us to be match fit.
Because we're so close to the World Cup now, what's your, on a daily basis, how often do you speak to players like Romelu Lukaku and Eden Hazard and Kevin De Bruyne? So do you have like a WhatsApp group you've set up?
No. I think I'm very aware. I'm very aware that when I was a club level manager, I hated the international coaches contacting my players. I think it would be quite unfair if I would turn the corner now and try to behave the way I didn't like it. So I think the way I like to do it is I respect the players' time and concentrate with the clubs, and that's the priority. They need to win games at their club, and that's the best preparation for the World Cup. Of course, we get the information in a different way. We got a daily contact between the medical departments and the sports scientist departments, and we accumulate information on a daily basis, but without having a contact with the player. I think it would be very, very wrong from us to do that.
Well, you managing at international level and managing at club level, I mean, I'm guessing you can see both sides of the argument. So when you're in charge of a club like Everton or Wigan that you was at, you're in charge of all them players. But when you go with international duty, you can control them while they're with you, but not while they're with their clubs. Is that quite frustrating? Is that difficult to deal with?
You need to accept it, Darren. I think that took me, at the beginning, I wanted to work at international level the way I was working as a manager at club level, and that was a big mistake. When I understood that it's a completely different way of working, then you can really affect, in a good way, working at international level. The biggest difference is lack of contact time, but you got more assessment. You always look back. You can almost treasure that time that you have away from the players and coach the players from the distance. You get to know how the players develop in their clubs, and that's a great way to prepare when you see them again. At club level, as you know, coaches nowadays, they need to go to the next game, and for that you oversee many things that you do on a daily basis, and it's a very different way of working. I realize now that if one day I go back to club level, I would work a lot in many ways in the things that I do at international level, because I do feel that you miss out something when you don't look back in the way that we work at club level.
Roberto, let me ask you, you don't really have the players for that long in the build-up to a World Cup. And, of course, when you've got the World Cup, you know, you've got to make snapshot decisions probably on a daily basis as to, you know, key players, what their fitness levels are like, etc. And also your style of play. How difficult or easy is it to integrate and sell a style of football, a brand of football that you'd like your country to play, that perhaps the players aren't necessarily playing that style at club level?
Yeah, I think it's always the key question. When you got so many players that they are important players at their clubs, that's why they come for the national team. Everyone has a real different way of doing things, and I think everything needs to get solved with real clarity. I think you need to come into a common ground of how you want the team to play, how you expect the individuals to perform for the team, so you can be competitive, but with the understanding and the agreement that the player can perform in that manner. And I think is with a lot of communication and making sure that everyone has got a real clear way of performing. And in that case, probably that's been the most fascinating aspect, to have our players, when we come before a major tournament, you realize that you have to work from the basics up, and that comes with compromising and finding the style that it suits your players, and then that it suits the way that you wanna coach.
talkSPORT Drive with Andy Goldstein, Monday to Friday afternoon from 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.